5, 4, 3. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. And welcome back to the Inner Circle podcast where real estate meets real life, hosted by yours truly, your Home Girl Jillian. We're coming to you live on IntellectualRadio.com, YouTube, and across my social media platforms. Don't worry if you missed the live show today. This is an episode, and this episode and all others will be available to stream anytime on IntellectualRadio.com's YouTube channel, iHeartRadio, and then all of my social media platforms. So each week on the Inner Circle podcast, we dive into a mix of real estate, business, life, bringing you real talk and actionable insights. So today we're switching it up a little bit with an engaging conversation on current events, social happenings, and just things that are just going on in the world, right? So my guest and fellow podcast host is Mr. Danasha Harrison, the host of the Danasha Harrison Show here on IntellectualRadio.com. So we're going to, I don't have an agenda for today, so we're just going to kind of jump into various topics. But I mean, this episode in general, it'll be breaking down, like I said, current events, sharing perspectives and sparking conversation between Danasha and I, and hopefully for those out there that are watching or listening. So as always, we want you to be a part of the conversation. Call us live at 708-223-8953 with any of your questions and your thoughts. Don't be shy. What you're thinking, somebody else may be. So definitely give us a call, and we'll take your call live on the show. So I want to welcome my guest, Mr. Danasha Harrison.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I was just minding my own business, y'all, running errands, and then I was asked to come in and do a show. So here I am.
Yes, Here he is. He answered the call. My guest for this week got postponed. So
it happens.
It happens, absolutely, as you know. So I thought none other, pay back the favor. I guess you're paying me back the favor that I did you when I was on the show, but I appreciate it. Right. That was my first kind of dipping my toe into the podcast in a live format. But
right, and I want to congratulate you for the type of show that you're doing for this platform. I think it's a wonderful show. I hear nothing but good things, and I'm glad that you decided to join the Intellectual Radio platform, because a lot of us really need this information. And I know you read what the show is about, and I know that we're switching it up a little bit, mm-hmm. but our community, as you know, we need more of the information that you provide on your show. So thank you for educating the people. And, I always support you while you continue to educate the people. So
yeah, and I appreciate that. And thank you for, as people are saying now, giving me my flowers for this.
Oh,
now I appreciate absolutely. That. Yeah. No, this was something I always wanted to do. It was not necessarily the real estate platform that I wanted to use. I really just wanted to start a podcast that was called The Inner Circle, but it was going to be me and my girlfriends just sitting around every week talking about girlfriend stuff, right? But something switched for me over the last year, and I'm like, there's not enough conversation about real estate, especially real estate in our community, and real estate is tied to so many other things. It is the start for families and generational wealth and things like that. So, it is the core for me and my perspectives to start surrounding a lot of conversations or just goals and things like that. So I wanted to build a platform to have these conversations.
You said something very, very profound about, real estate being a part of a whole lot of other things. I believe that it is the cornerstone of any platform. We look at what's going on in the world today, especially with Palestine, Israel, for example. What's that about? Real estate.
Yep.
We look at what's been going on for centuries, and it's always been about land. Not, yep. in a nice way, appropriation, right? We look at what's going on today with the current administration and its threats for, other countries, to include Canada was the last thing right. that was commented on about making that the 51st state. What's it about? It's about real estate. So
and power, which go hand in hand.
And real estate will actually bring that,
right?
Depending on what your definition of power is,
right?
So, in a positive, from a positive perspective, based on what you're doing and based on your show, I believe it's very important for people to understand that the cornerstone of any solid foundation starts with real estate, because so many other things, social circles, political circles, financial circles, all integrated into one. Some form of real estate is going to be the best foundation that I think a person can have.
Agreed. I agree. So I want to tell my viewers and my listeners a little bit about you, because I know, I was on your show. Listeners might be different. So just give a little bit about your background, your show, so people can.
So you said you want to tell it. I'll let you tell it.
No. I'm asking you to tell it.
Okay,
No. You tell
it. All right. So I'm Denasha Harrison. Born and raised in Chicago. Not too far from here, South Austin area, west side of Chicago. Spent some time in the military, right? Did 20 years in the Marine Corps. Decided to come back here. Currently, I live south of the city. Got a lot going on. So I have a couple of personal businesses. I have a shoe line. AliveShoes.com is a partner with me for Shy Cali Collections. I'm running for trustee of Dalton, Illinois. I have a concealed carry firearms business. So if you have your FOID card, your firearms identification card, and you want to get your concealed carry, or if you just want to have certain classes concerning you and your household to help you feel safe, then you can look me up, K Harrison LLC. So I got a lot going on. I love my city. I believe that the world is your home, and although the world is your home, you have to pick a place that you want to put roots down into. And I am a firm believer of being a part of the community that you live in. I am a firm believer of leaving a place better than when you found it. And if you see something going on in your community, or if you see something going on in the world for that matter, be a part of the change that you want to see. And lastly, I'll say that I'm a firm believer in respecting others and how they want to move in life, and just trying to be the best you that you can be for yourself, because I believe that that's the true attraction. I've said on my show a few times, we talked about inner circles. Whether that circle is big or small, make sure that that's a functioning circle. Make sure that the people in your circle, or the things that you have in your circle, are actually beneficial to you and the others that are in your circle. And I also talk about being the best you for you, because it's important that we realize that that's what actually attracts what you're looking for. When you are trying to be the best you for a certain cause, or certain people, but you don't find yourself within that cause, you don't know what your role is, you're not comfortable in your role of purpose, then the things that you're asking to attract themselves to you, in my experience, does not come. But when you're being the best you for you, meaning that you're getting to know where your purpose is and things, or where you stand on certain subjects, certain topics, you may feel like you're standing alone, but there's someone out there that will be attracted to your cause, because you're confident about what you believe in and why you're doing what you're doing. So that's a little bit about me.
No, I love that. That was a great story. And that was knowing you for these last few, I don't know how long we've known each other, maybe 6 years, 6 years?
So the first time I went looking for a house was, I guess, maybe going on 6 years.
Yeah, it's been almost like it's been several years. But that was the perfect description of who I've met you to be. You haven't changed. And I love that about you, is you have stayed consistent in your beliefs, your philosophies, your support for the community. And that's what I want to dive into first, because I want to give you this opportunity to kind of tell people more about your running for trustee. What city are you running for trustee? What is the platform you're running on? I want to get into this conversation, so I'm going to open it up with that question before we talk about this particular city and what's occurring.
Gotcha. So we're not going to talk so much about the noise and the smoke.
Okay. Right? I respect that.
So I would like to let everybody know that my name is Dinasha Harrison, and I am running for trustee of Dalton, Illinois, on the Rebuilding Dalton ticket, where Cassandra Hobson Jordan is actually running for mayor of Dalton. So if you have been watching the news, you know that the other people that are running is someone by the name of the current mayor, Tiffany Henyard, and the um, senior trustee, which is Jason House. So they're running for mayor as well. Mm. So we are on an independent ticket. So, all of my life I've, voted Democrat, or I have Democrat leaning views. Mm-hmm. I don't consider myself as a Democrat or Republican, two-party system. I consider myself as someone who will always be open to recognize the good out of both parties. Now, due to this certain situation in Dalton, it was best to run as an independent because Jason House and Tiffany Henyard are both running as Democrats. Okay. So what would have happened was if Cassandra Hobson Jordan would have ran as a Democrat, then all three candidates would have been running as Democrats together, which meant that there was more of a chance to split the vote. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we wanted to do. Mrs. Hobson Jordan had a vision to ensure that the people had a solid choice, that the people had a solid foundation. Now, again, I said I wasn't going to talk about all the smoke mm-hmm. and all the noise, but if you've been watching, there's been a lot of drama in Dalton over misappropriation of finances, over, podcasters and bloggers and legislators. There's been a lot of noise and smoke. But the vision of Mrs. Hobson Jordan was to ensure that the people were put first. And I agree with her. That's why I ran on her ticket. We want to make sure that the people have choice. So if you run all three candidates on a Democratic ticket, you're splitting the vote, and people have to make a decision to do like the lesser of two evils mm-hmm. type scenario. Well, we decided to run independent. So now, for those who were primarily for Jason House and for those who were primarily for Tiffany Henyard, once the election goes February 25th, mm-hmm. people will vote their conscience. Now, whoever wins that vote on April 1st is the general election. And that's when either candidate, whoever wins, will run against Cassandra Hobson Jordan. That gives people choice, and it gives people real topics and real subjects to stand behind. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the people won't feel like they're being disenfranchised when it comes to actually casting their vote. Right. A lot of people have asked us, whose side are you on? Mm-hmm. What are you standing for? Not really what are you standing for, but who you're standing for. And our answer has been the same. We are for the people of Dalton. Mm-hmm. And Dalton is a part of a place called Thornton Township. Right. And I always say that what's good for Dalton is good for the township, and what's good for the township is good for Dalton and the other surrounding villages, because a strong Dalton means a strong township. Right. So, and I'm very familiar with Dalton. That's actually, I did my first investment property in Dalton. I've sold to, homes in Dalton to clients, and sold homes in Dalton from clients. But I guess I'm not a Dalton resident, but I want to ask this question for the people. I know we said we're not going to dive into the drama and the smoke, right? But what is it, and particularly your ticket that you guys are running, what is it that you're going to come in and do differently than what's being done now? That's a great question. Excuse me. So transparency is what a lot of people are asking for, and that's what I asked for when I first moved there. So I've been there over 2 years now. Not long. I believe Cassandra Hobson Jordan has been there, I want to say 15, 16 years, maybe going on 17. I might have the time off, but she's been through a few administrations. This is my first. So again, as I said before, you always want to leave a place better than you found it. You always want to be a part of the change that you want to see. As soon as I moved to the neighborhood, I was all in. Like, where can I volunteer? What can I do to help my village? Because I plan on living here and I plan on staying here. So to your question, doing things different. There's a lot of things that, in my opinion, have been on the table, a lot of promises that have been made, and certain things take time. But for us, we want to see small businesses thrive, and we want to see big businesses partner. So we want to see a partnership of businesses to where the people do not have to have their dollars not recycled within not only, and I keep saying the township because it's important, not only the village of Dalton, but the township as well. We want to make sure that those dollars recycle. And what that means is partnering up with bigger businesses and paying attention to the small businesses. If you make a phone call, or if you, in the past, I can't say now, but in the past, if you make a phone call to get a business license or to have some type of support from the village during the time when I first moved there, just to get some answers, it was very hard to do. So if you wanted to come and put your business into Dalton at the time, and I'm not sure about now because I haven't made any phone calls lately, but you wouldn't get an answer back. It can be very frustrating. We just saw a business by the name of St. Patrick's in the news about trying to get their alcohol license approved, and there was some type of holdup. The reason why was never told as to why the holdup. So transparency, communicating, allowing people to understand by doing a real audit. And the reason I say a real audit is because you really don't know what the numbers are unless you're a part of that legislative body. Now, as we all know, Lori Lightfoot came and did her audit. Right. This was the second time that she did her audit. And I'm not sure what she was allowed to have. I'm not sure what was pending. But I believe that she outlined misappropriation of funds. So with that, I believe as a legislator, you have to come in and take a look at what she did, which was misappropriation of funds, but get down to the root as to who did what. You know, who misappropriated the funds. Clean the whole house. And what I mean by that is this. It's not that you're not willing to work with the current legislators, but the people deserve real answers. The people don't need to hear, well, I don't trust, the trustees because they had to have something to do with, or I don't trust Tiffany because of all the smoke I've seen on the news and the things that she's actually done, or whatever that is. We want to make sure that we give the people an opportunity to communicate with us, that we are very transparent in what our goals are, and that we present the facts to the people, that we let the people know, hey, this is A, this is B. We believe that what would be best for the village is to do C. So again, big businesses have been talked with Hobson Jordan and partners. There's a lot of people that want to partner up. We don't want to start, throwing out names and things of that nature because there's nothing set in stone. There's nothing definite yet because we are not currently a part of that administration and we're not a part of that legislative body. But should Hobson Jordan administration should she win the mayoral seat, you can see a lot of big businesses partnering with us and standing behind us because the big businesses don't know what the truth is. All they know is what we know. There's a lot of smoke. Right. So can you trust the people that's in the current legislative body? Or should you go with somebody fresh and brand new? Right. Should you go with, someone that's a current resident? And I'm talking about Hobson Jordan. She's flipped over 50 houses in the community, providing housing for families. She's her own, she's a business owner. She does her own thing. So she served over 10 years in the United States Navy. Like myself, I served over 20 in the United States Marine Corps. The reason that I mention that is because we understand what service is all about. We've served countries outside of our own who've had different views and different values, different opinions. But if it's about the service, you have to get past somebody's religious orientation or somebody's sexual orientation. If you're there to help, if you're there to serve, then you should be there to serve because serving is the right thing to do. not based on you serving because it may or may not fit your agenda. And so because Mrs. Hobson Jordan has understood what military service is all about, and because of what I experienced with my military service, I think that we're proper candidates for these positions that we're running for. And I would like to add to this by saying that when we've served, and I can speak for her as well on this because we've spoken about our military service, it's not comfortable all the time. Right? When she did over 10 years of service in the United States Navy, it wasn't comfortable. When I did over 20 years of service in the United States,
she's African American, right?
Yes,
yeah, in the Navy, right? As a woman,
so, yeah, in the Navy, not so comfortable of a position, right? Especially in the Navy. In the Navy, right? Not knocking on, the Navy, because the Marine Corps is a department of the Navy. I've had my positive and negative experiences as well, and it's not always a comfortable position to be in, but yet you're dedicated to something bigger than you. You're dedicated to something bigger than what you feel your agenda may or may not include. Now, here we are in the village that we live in. Here we are in the village that we actually put roots down into. We're in a village where we want to be a part of peace in our neighborhoods. Everybody wants the same thing. Peace and growth and prosperity, right? I'm like, and that's what I'm not trying to cut you off, but you brought up big businesses, and I just recall when I was flipping in Dalton, but I'm like, all of the vacant stores and commercial spaces, and I would drive around, and being that I was doing a project there, taxes was a huge issue, right? So being in real estate, I would drive around, and I haven't been recently. I haven't been in a few months, but I'm imagining these places are still closed, the vacant spaces that I saw. But I'm like, these individuals are paying this high tax amount to me, right? But what are they getting for it? And I'm glad you mentioned that your ticket is in conversation with bigger businesses and even small businesses that are doing. You've got homeowners or residents that have small businesses but are going elsewhere to have their actual brick and mortar space because they can't get a business license in Dalton, or it's a hard process or ambiguous process, as you mentioned. So I'm glad that you guys are partnering. But even you mentioning your service, I mean, both of you guys having a military background and coming from a place of serving this country, I get why it spills into what you guys are doing. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's important to mention that, and not only mention it, but try to paint the picture for people to understand. Because if you did not live a life of service in the military, I'm sure you know somebody who did. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that folks in the military experience, see beyond what I would expect to be normal, right? And I'll expound on that in a minute, but I'd like to back up a little bit and talk about St. Patrick's. Mm-hmm. Beautiful building that just went out, dealing with hurdles that they ended up having to clear. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna sit here and act as if there's not other things that are possibly going on in Dalton when it comes to businesses possibly coming in. That may be the case. Hold up, just because St. Patrick's is a liquor store? St. Patrick's is a event okay. Space. I didn't know you had mentioned alcohol or something before, so I wasn't sure. License. The license. Okay, so it's an event space. Right. Because I was about to take that somewhere else. I'm thinking, wait, they built this is a new build structure? Right. It's okay. New. I thought you were saying they built a new liquor store, and I'm out of all the things that you could possibly, the last thing. Absolutely. Okay. Right. I'm glad we clarified that. Right. Good city. So, but I'm sure there are other things that are on the horizon. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are other businesses that may or may not want to partner with the current administration or the people that are poised to potentially come in. I'm talking about the potential House administration. Mm-hmm. There may be people out there, so I'm not going to act as if that's not the case. I'm simply saying this. At the end of the day, the legislators that are currently there were not able to get along and move things forward. Tiffany Henyard may have been the obstacle. There may have been a culmination of things that were going on between her and the trustees. I don't know because I wasn't there and I'm not in those rooms. But one thing that I can tell you, I do know that for myself, should I get elected to become a trustee in Dalton, that I'm going to do the work of the people. I'm not biased with that. I'm about how you get to yes. I'm about transparency. I'm about communication. And I know that the lady that's running for mayor, Mrs. Hobson Jordan, is about the same values and principles. Because for me, there's no way that I'm going to allow that much smoke, that much arguing, that much bickering and disrespect, on both sides to continue to roll. And the people are still asking, well, what about me? Well, what is it that's going on with my taxes? What is it that's going on with the new, proposed water solution with, sensors and these type of things? Why is someone not answering the phone? On both sides, that question could have been answered a long time ago. So I want to be real. I want to keep it real. I want to keep it transparent. It's not about being the perfect person for the job. That's not what it's about, because I don't believe anything's perfect. But it's about having the opportunity to serve because of the previous service and background that I have and what I'm willing to bring to the table. I've had people put me in rooms and places that I've never even been or seen because they're so hell bent on trying to paint a narrative of the people that they're not for. How do you do that? Right? How do you demonize people that you don't even know? Why would you fix your mouth on someone that you have never met, never talked to, never sat down and got an opportunity to know? And my answer to that would be because this is your goal, to be an agent of chaos, to make sure that you keep up the mess because you are so determined to have power. Yeah. You're so determined to have a certain individual or a group of individuals take control. But where's the people in this whole process? Right. Yeah. So just wanted to share that. They've gotten lost, and they're lost, but in a bigger circle, right? And back to the kind of play on inner circle. But what you just said kind of makes me think larger. What about the people and what's going on in this country, right? It's this week, because these last few weeks have been crazy, and I haven't talked about it on the show. It has been. I almost can't watch the news, So not only are we seeing these things at a local setting, but we're seeing them on a national and global, right? And it's been chaotic. That's a perfect word to kind of say that. I don't even know what the biggest topic. Canada, I guess the tariffs this week was the biggest topic. I believe for this week, the fact that you're talking about making Canada the 51st state, I think is ridiculous. Absolutely. But it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not impossible because of who. It's not impossible to attempt that because of who you have in office, and that takes me back to what we do or don't pay attention to. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge one. Yeah. I've had the opportunity to work with USAID in my past when I worked with the State Department. And they do great work overseas. And the fact that you would close the whole agency down, you're attacking the Department of Education now. Absolutely. And not have a plan for those people at all. Right. So when you talk about the Department of Education, we're not just talking about Chicago Public Schools. Right. We're talking about grants for territories like reservations, things of that nature. You're talking about the indigenous people of this country being affected. So you're talking about all things that hit everyone's household. Yeah. I give you an example. There was a lady who voted for the current administration. And this lady did not know that the Affordable Health Care Act was also known as Obamacare. So because she kept hearing about Obamacare, she was like, well, yeah, we can't vote for Kamala Harris. We got to vote for Trump because he's going to end Obamacare. Excuse me. this lady actually has a special needs child. And so after she casted her vote, she started to look back on the Affordable Health Care Act, understanding that what she needed for her family was impacted because of her lack of knowledge about the differences between the two. There are no differences. People have named the Affordable Health Care Act Obamacare.
Right.
So when you look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, you look at the tariffs that are currently enacted and the blustering of the threats of other things going on. It's not about what you factually do. It's about the chaos that you ensue because of the rumor of what you're going to do.
Right.
You have people not going to the hospital because they feel like they're going to get deported. And I don't believe anybody who's watching your show or you or anybody in the studio would disagree about people coming over illegally committing heinous crimes. They should be locked up in jail. Once they're locked up in jail, the whole deportation process that needs to occur. That's my opinion. But guess what? There's so many other cogs in that wheel that needs to happen. So if you're going to be rounding up people to get them out the country, then you have to take a look at your overall process of how you do immigration.
Right.
I can tell you after working in, a couple of continents, different countries. I worked in a specific country in Africa, and their consulate section was about the size of this studio.
Wow.
I worked in other areas where their consulate section was bigger than this building here. And so depending on the demographics, depending on the country, depended on, who our country was going to say, yes, you will have a travel visa. Yes, you can have a work visa. People who are of color from where I worked didn't get the same opportunities as people who are lighter than me. That's a fact. That is a fact. It's not rhetoric, right? I saw a person who, when I was in Africa in the consulate, he was a doctor and he owned several properties and he wanted a travel visa so that he can look at potentially expanding a business in America. That man came back several times, denied, because of the mindset of our State Department at the time about people of color. Now, having worked with the State Department for several years, I'm not sure what it looked like before Marco Rubio took over. I'm not sure what it's looking like now. But based on what our country's doing from a political position and getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not really understanding what diversity, equity, and inclusion touches, I believe that we're not on the right path. However, I believe that people of color, we've been resilient for hundreds of years. And if we've been resilient for close to 500 years now, in this country alone, we can get through 4 years. I believe that what's important is for us to pay attention to local politics. Pay attention to who you're elected on these benches when it comes to the judicial process.
And who's making the rules, right?
Who's making the rules. Because in some circles, people feel like rules that have been created to be laws are simply gentlemen's agreements.
Right. Yep.
Right?
Behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors. It's just a gentleman's agreement. So when it deals with amending things, right? Civil rights was an amendment to the Constitution. So now the fact that it was an amendment to the Constitution and it was signed into law, guess what? It can be challenged to be signed out of law. So, just my opinion.
Yeah, no, and you brought up probably the bigger topic than the tariffs was DEI. I know, there is so much boycotting going on. I'm just, as I scroll through social media and just, I'm looking at other people's posts and videos, coming out talking about DEI, but all of these big box companies, Fortune 500 companies that are either overtly or covertly removing DEI from their policies. What's your thought process?
Well, my thought process is that there's power in the boycott, but you have to have an end game.
Absolutely.
You have to have a plan. So when you do boycott, you have to take a look at other businesses that you may or may not be hurting that are small Black businesses or businesses that are behind diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let's take Target, for example.
I was just going to go there. As a small Black business owner and I have a product on Target, what am I supposed to do? It's such a, I've been thinking about this all week. I'm like, I have products in Target. I support DEI, but I also need to make my business thrive, right? Or this is how I live. So what do you do?
So again, my opinion. So the fact that you have an organization that's actually pushing the boycott behind Target, which you have your product on shelves, we have to have an end game and we have to have a cumulative effort to make sure that the Black businesses that found a place in Target, which before, by the way, was for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right after George Floyd, Target was one of the biggest proponents of DEI, and a lot of Black businesses put their products on the shelf. So we want to make sure that, number one, Target is not just blowing smoke by doing more Black stuff.
Right.
We actually want organizations like Target, Walmart to actually change policy. So to your question,
what's their plan?
Right. And when it comes to those who are actually pushing the boycott, is there a list of businesses that you can co-op with to make sure that you don't lose your sales? You know, where's the product going to go now? And so for you as a business owner, I believe Sam's Club is still doing diversity. Costco, yeah. Right? So it's time to shift.
Right.
It's time to shift because you don't want your bottom line affected, yet you don't want to stand for something, or you don't want to be a part of something that you don't stand for. And for me personally, you know, I would applaud you to make sure that your product continues to move forward, yet it's not on a shelf that's been influenced by a racist administration and the whole racist movement, right? And that's been in the works for a long time now.
Right.
So Project 2025, if you haven't been up on that or haven't read it, it's unfolding in front of our eyes. In real life. And so Project 2025, I won't say a manifesto, but it's a document that's been written on how things need to happen in this country to take this country back. So a lot of details are in Project 2025 about how things are going. Now, I will say this, because again, I'm keeping it real and transparent. I don't believe that it's not right. I don't believe that it's right to not put the interests of our country first. I also don't feel it's right to just follow along with policies and treaties that are not good for our best interests. Now, but I'm not a this or that type of person. I'm a this and that type of person. So I believe that if you truly care about people, that you can find a way to make sure that our country's safe. Everybody wants a safe country. That you have growth, that things develop as they should, right? I believe that everybody can move along in the same fashion, in a like fashion together, if they put the interests of people first.
Right.
Because at the core of everything, we all want the same things, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good topic, and putting the people first. I mean, people are in a panic now. I think chaos, panic, concern. I received a text message from a client of mine who is just like, she's been so engulfed in what's happening because these changes that are being made by those that are in power are affecting her children. And, you know, she's just so upset. So everybody is feeling it, from every race, every religious people, I mean, political backgrounds, people that voted that way are now regretting their vote, as you mentioned. From a financial perspective, speaking of business and real estate, we are waiting to see what is going to happen and how this is going to affect rates and, you know, just all things of that nature. Even just down, like you mentioned, local local rules and politics, how things are going to change. And you made a good point by people have got to pay attention to what's happening around you. We are watching national because we are a country, right? And everybody's tuned in. They want to see what he's doing, right? So people are tuned in, but you have to be paying attention to what's happening right next door or right in your community.
I believe that, and I believe you also have to educate yourself on what the law truly is, because there's a lot of things that are left up to interpretation, left up to speculation. And so when you have leadership that's not clear, you have to refer back to the law that, again, I believe most people who have been in power for generations look at it as simply a gentleman's agreement. But you have to uh, encourage those around you to know the law. There are so many things that are in litigation right now. You got executive orders that have been signed, but it may be illegal, but the actions are. But that doesn't mean that the money still flows when it comes to like your job. Like a lot of veterans who work for these companies, it's a lot of veterans that work for the Department of Energy, Department of Education, USAID. The VA is actually being affected. Most jobs are being affected. And I guarantee you that all those people did not vote Democrat. And the reason that I say that is on my show a lot, I say you get what you get, right? But what I want people to understand is that if you feel like you're in a catch-22, like you can't go out because ICE is on the loose, take that time to educate yourself about the law. You may or may not be in jeopardy. Your loved ones may or may not be in jeopardy, but it's important to know the law so that when you're challenged, that it's not just an interpretation from the other side. It's not just speculation from the other side. If you can articulate what the laws are concerning your case, concerning what's going on with DEI being gutted and how you can pivot and get in touch with that company that has a list of all those other companies that you can partner with, then we can keep this moving. Like I said before, we've been um, we've been persecuted, we've been abused, we've been called everything but a child of God. Right. As Black people and as brown people and as yellow people, it's important for us to understand that we can't get through this. And I'll say this too: everybody who, I'll say this, a lot of everybody benefits from diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Absolutely, not just
everybody.
From Black and brown people.
From Black all the way to white.
Absolutely.
Everybody benefits because everybody benefited from civil rights. Yep. Right? Because of civil rights, there's a lot of things that our fellow countrymen are able to do that could not be done before, because not only were we looked at as property, right? Women were not looked at as equal, right? Immigrants were not looked at as equal, right? So we have to understand that from the backs of Black folks, from the inception of this country, even before then, before this was even a country, everybody else has been benefiting. So I say that to say, before you look at someone of color and oppose that individual or oppose those people, you need to find ways to partner up. Folks, y'all need to find a way to partner up with Black folk, because if it were not for our struggles, you would not have the opportunities in this country to do the things that you have the things that you have. So, yeah.
What you just said, it doesn't always, but certain things when we start talking about, the past or even the current, I'm always thinking about the future. And when I think about the future, I think about young people. And I just hope that they are watching what's happening. I mean, even from a local level, from a national level, because these things that in politics or legislation that's happening at the local level and at the national level, these changes, they're going to be affected. Social Security, there probably will be no Social Security for, these teenagers or 20-year-olds in 40 years. It won't be. I'm assuming. I think it won't be there because they want to dismantle that system. So I hope that young people are paying attention to what's happening. I hope even, if they're not collectively getting together, watching, I hope, mentors and parents and teachers or people that, my age or older are grabbing these young people and talking to them about what's happening and what their future could look like. I think, you know, because of social media, people are aware, but I just don't know how much they're really understanding or what they're planning or what the goal is as a younger generation is to change things. I don't want to say change things back, but to change things or move on from the change or the aftermath of what we're going to experience now.
Well said.
Yeah.
I think it's important also to reiterate that we have to pay attention on the local level. Like a lot of people believe that because a certain party, the Republican Party, has the House, has the Senate, and has the White House, and for the most part, the judicial branch as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who in the past have voted independent or voted Democrat feel like there's no hope, that there's nothing that you can do. I want to let you know that there is something that you still can do. Now, of course, the White House is one. We see the judges are where they are. We see the House, we see the Senate, but that does not mean that you do not have a voice. Local politics affects you the most, the fastest. And local politics is a part of uh, politics on a national level. So if you go to your town hall meetings, if you look at what the legislation is on the books for your community, you can affect change in a very positive way by becoming a part of the process, young or old. If you have an address in that location, then please find out where you can go to be a part of the process. Yeah, an event center don't really mean nothing to me. I ain't gonna never go there and do this and do that. Yo, wait a minute now. You might never go to watch the Super Bowl or go drink any alcohol or eat anything there, but they're paying taxes in your village. So the taxes that they pay affect the taxes that you pay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the water that they use affects the bill that you receive. I don't get gas at that Shell station. I'm over at the Exxon. Well, guess what? The taxes that they pay or any other business in your village affects your wallet. It affects the bottom dollar. And not only that, most importantly, beyond money, beyond finances, it affects how your village develops. You talk about the future. You talk about growth. It makes a difference on how your future looks for your community. Where's your community going? Where is your community going to end up? What plans do the legislative body have for your community? So pay attention to the local politics because there is something that you can do. You can always do more than you've done the day before. You can always do more. No matter how much you've done, you can always get up and do more. So I just wanted to share that.
So, final question I want to ask because I know our time is running short, but I know you have a daughter, right?
I have two daughters.
Two daughters, okay.
Two daughters and a son.
Two daughters and a son. I missed those other two.
And five
kids.
grandkids.
And 5 grandkids. So, you're running for trustee, you have prior military service, you are active in your community, you are a big proponent of people of color. What are the conversations you're having with your children, your grandchildren, about this country?
Well, I let them know that service is important, and it always goes back to being the best you that you can be for you. I don't want my family or anybody getting wrapped up into something because it's the social scene at the time or something that's so fleeting to where people are always trying to find their way into something else, because that's just the wave of the day. I let my daughter know, especially my baby girl, she's 16 now, and I let Layla know, hey, Layla, you need to be the best you that you can be for you. If there's something that you don't feel comfortable doing, if there's something that you don't feel comfortable with based on how people are pressing you, then don't be so pressed to not be a part of that. But I do encourage her to push herself when it comes to anything that her and her community is involved in. And I'll continue to do that for not only her, but my other family members, people that know me know, be the best you that you can be for you, and other things will attract to you that's positive for you.
I love that. I love that. So, Dinasha, when can our listeners tune into your show and just tell them where they can connect with you?
Okay, so the Dinasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio on Wednesdays from 8 to 9. Now, we'll let everybody know I will be away for a few weeks. And then when I come back, I'll tell you why I was gone. But I'm usually on the Intellectual Radio platform from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you
Wednesdays.
Yep, on Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go to YouTube right now and you can take a look at some shows that I've done, not only on Intellectual Radio, but I was on a platform a long time ago in Baltimore called Be Exposed Radio. So, but if you want to catch what's going on, just YouTube or intellectualradio.com, The Nasha Harrison Show.
I love that. I love that. To all my listeners and viewers, please check out his show. It's really dope. I love some of the topics that you just come in and talk about. You know, you are one that something can hit you that day and you will come on that evening and it's the topic of your show, but it is a great conversation. Whether you have a guest or not, just, the discussion is good. So I want to applaud you for that.
Thank you. I try to be as organic as possible.
Yeah. And we're missing a lot of that. And that's why a platform like Intellectual Radio is helping a lot of us be or is as organic and just bring stuff to the people in our lives, people that we don't know, conversations that need to be had. So a shout out to intellectualradio.com. So thank you so much, Danasha, for joining me today. Your energy, your insights, and unfiltered perspective on current events. We got into politics and business, made for an incredible conversation today. So thank you. I know our listeners enjoyed the real talk and fresh takes you brought to the table. To all of our listeners, remember, stay informed and stay engaged with what's happening locally and nationally is just as important as staying focused on your personal goals as well, which we dive into each week on the Inner Circle podcast. Conversations like these help us grow, learn, and stay connected to the world among us. If you missed a part of today's episode, don't worry. You can catch the replay on intellectualradio.com, their YouTube channel, iHeartRadio, and across my social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in to the Inner Circle podcast. Thank you, Danasha, for joining us. This is where real life meets real estate and real talk. I'm your host, your Home Girl Jillian. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and keep pushing forward. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay.